Welcome to the Harper Tech Academy. In Harper's Creations today, we're actually going to make some beautiful sandwiches. So we have two different types here. We have an egg and dill and a salmon, and we're going to make little petite sandwiches that would be beautiful for a high tea, great for summer, spring, going out on a picnic. As always, I have actually printed the recipe, but you'll find in the comments below the video that there is actually a recipe there for you. All right, so let's get going. Let's just bring it down to the bench here. I have a whole egg mayonnaise. Now, if you have not, don't have that there is actually a video I'll show you how to make traditional mayonnaise, and it is so very simple. We also have some eggs here which I've boiled and actually started to mash up. There's also a video there. These have been boiled for 9 minutes. Now, on the recipe it has dill, but I actually have some beautiful fennel fronds. We have a telly or a Lebanese cucumber, a lemon, and just a little bit of salmon in a can. So let's get going. So I'm going to get you to come down here. I'm actually mashing my eggs here. You know, just the other day I was talking to my wife and talking about that egg sandwich and just how it's just one of those comfort foods. Really, really yummy and beautiful. And if you have a look here, the egg has been done really beautifully too. So now that we've got our eggs here, then what I'm going to do is actually get some of this whole egg mayonnaise. Now, you'll notice if you have a look here, it is actually quite thick, and that's really important. That'll give us a lovely, nice bound type of egg mix. All right, so I'm just going to take some of these fennel fronds, but if you have dill, that's fine too. You can use the dill. And we're just going to chop that up roughly, and we're actually going to mix that in. Okay, so nice sharp knife. Now you'll notice here, and students, you probably notice that I have a utility board and not a green board, but that's only because I am at home. I've also got the blue board here for our seafood. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to chop that roughly and actually add that back into my beautiful egg mix here. So I'll just push the rest of that straight in, and we're going to mix it up. Now, one of the really important things when we're actually doing sandwiches is to actually taste your food. Make sure you're tasting your food, making sure you're actually maximizing what you're going to get. All right, so a bit of salt and pepper, just a touch in there. And a little grind of pepper is going to make all the difference in this one. So we're just going to leave those sitting there. We're just going to mix that up. So this is our first mix. And I'm just going to taste that. Maybe a touch more pepper. And this is where that skill of actually seasoning everything and making it really beautiful makes such a difference. Right. So that's my first mix. Now, the really important thing here is when we're making these types of things, they need to go into the fridge. All right. So we make all of our mixes first, and then we get ready. So you'll see over on my bench, I have everything organized here. So let's make the salmon. So this is John West salmon. Depending on where you are in the world, get a good quality salmon. So what we're going to do is I'm going to drain it. open it up. And I'm just going to drain it. So if you have a look here, there's quite a bit of juice in there. Well, I want to drain that juice off. And if you've got a very big can of salmon, you're going to need to take some of the skin and probably some of the bones out too. All right, so I'm going to put that in. It's actually quite clean compared to normal. So if you're at home and you have some skin, you're actually going to pull the skin off. That looks pretty good. All right, so put that can there. All right, next, we're actually going to use some lemon zest. Okay, so when we're zesting the lemon, you just want the yellow. All right, you don't want any of the white, which is the pith. This is a microplane. And if you just come down here, I'm just going to run that microplane over the top and get some zest in there. And that's going to add some beautiful flavour. Always zest your lemon first. Really important. Okay, next. Just going to put that one in the sink. I'm going to cut my lemon. And what we're going to do is just little squeeze. Look how beautiful that lemon is. Really juicy and yum. So we're going to mix that around. I'll just put that back in my mise en place. And we're actually going to add a little bit of dill in here too. I know it's not in the recipe, but like a lot of things, we want to make sure we have a really beautiful dish. So you can sort of change depending on what you have in the garden that time of year. Really makes a difference. So I'm going to mix that around. Now, depending on how dry it is how much lemon you're actually going to put into here. All right, so it's quite moist there. Again, I'm going to put this in the fridge, ready to go. All right, now we need to get ready for service. All right, now if we're doing a big function at school, I'm just going to move this out of the way. It's really important that you set everything up properly. All right, so have everything ready to go. So our cucumber, what we're going to do with our cucumber now is actually slice that nice and fine. Now, one of the really important things about making sandwiches here is having everything sliced really evenly. All right, so I've got some takeaway containers here. You might have some bowls at home, but you want to keep it really super neat. Makes such a difference to when you're making your sandwiches. We want to keep that bread really nice and fresh and beautiful. So we're going to slice some of those cucumbers up. Okay, and that will be enough. Right, okay. So I don't need my fennel frond right now, so that'll go back in the fridge. Now I've got my egg mix, which I'm going to transfer into a container, ready to go. Now, if you were in a restaurant, you would actually be putting this in an ice bath and having like containers in the fridge and bringing them out. We really want to keep things as fresh as possible. Is really super important. Okay, my cucumber there. So let's start to get ready. I've got my salmon there. Now at this point we need to check the recipe. Make sure that you have everything that you need. Yeah, lemon juice, lovely. All right, so now we're moving on to the second part. So we've got a nice wholemeal bread. Doesn't matter where you get it from, and a nice white bread here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do one of each, but at home you might do more. All right, the key thing here is to make sure that we keep it nice and fresh, and get some white bread out. So that's nice and fresh. Again, sealing these off and sort of moving them out of the way. Okay, now butter. All right, so we've got butter. Now some people prefer margarine, some prefer butter. I must admit I lean more towards butter because it actually has more flavour. So what we're going to do is we're going to butter our bread. Now if I had 6 of these, I would actually use a tea towel over the top to keep it from getting dry. All right, so you're going to start off, we're going to butter the bread. Now you want to butter it, if you have a look on the webcam there, you want to butter it right to the edges. Okay, that's really important. And it's about consistency when we're actually working with this type of sandwich. So right the way out to the edges to keep it as fresh as possible. You know, you don't want crusty sandwiches, it's not nice. All right, got the beautiful brown bread. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a salmon and cucumber sandwich onto the wholemeal bread. And we're going to do the egg onto the white bread. All right, so there we go. Now, one last thing that I've just noticed that we don't have yet is a little bit of iceberg lettuce. So let's get some iceberg out and we'll just get that sorted straight away. So it doesn't matter what type of lettuce you use, but what we're going to do is we're going to do some chiffonade. Again, if you need those skills, please feel free to watch the video. All right, so what we're going to do is roll this up. We're just going to slice it. I'll put that into my container. You'll notice the whole time I'm keeping my bench very clean. Just like we do in class or in a restaurant, it needs to stay very, very clean. Okay, so the next stage is we've got our mise en place ready, we've buttered our bread, it's covered. Now if you're doing a function where you might be doing a round, so round is 2 pieces of bread, you're actually going to butter all of them up, have them covered, and then the next stage we're actually going to make them. So I'm going to make my egg mix here first. And because it's bound really beautifully, as I smear that on, it's actually going to sit up really nicely when we present it. So just smear that on. Make sure it's even across the whole sandwich. We don't want to be ripping one person off and not the other. All right, so that's going to go back on. I'm also going to make, actually I'm going to add a little bit of lettuce to this, so a bit of chiffonade of lettuce, add a bit of crunch to our dish. There we go. I'm going to cover that to keep it nice and organised. Now I'm going to get my cucumber and I'm going to line that up. All right, I normally put the actual cucumber on first, is really important. And a little bit of the salmon mix. Oh, look at that. How could you not be happy? The beautiful salmon sandwich. And you wait until you see how we're going to present it. It's just going to make it amazing. And you want to keep that as even as possible. Who would have thought there is so much to actually making sandwiches? But there really is. It really makes a difference. All right. Okay. Now, if I was to continue, I'd basically have my tea towels. I do the egg, it goes back in the fridge. I do my salmon, goes back in the fridge. And then when we're ready, if you're actually going to leave it overnight, and we may be doing functions like this, you're actually going to put a tea towel over the top, slightly moistened, bit of Glad wrap over the top to make sure it stays beautifully fresh. Now, I'm actually going to move to the next stage using a serving plate. It could be a platter, keep it simple. White's probably the most classic. So I'm going to start off by cutting my salmon. Now I'm using a serrated edge knife here. We're going to cut all 4 edges off. All right. Really important. This is where our fine sandwiches come in. All right. So I've got a bowl here for all the offcuts. As you're doing that, keep it neat. You don't want this falling back into. Now the first one here, what we're going to do is we're going to cut it into a triangle. All right. Now when I cut, I'm not pressing really hard. That's really important. And I'm using the sawing action to actually cut it really nicely so I don't have big fingerprints in the actual sandwich. All right, so I've got my plate here, and what I'm going to do is actually lay them across. And look, you can do it any way you'd like. All right, now I'm going to take that off, and I'll just give this board a little bit of a clean. All right, so we would normally in a commercial kitchen be actually doing this bit by bit. So we'd have separate boards, but being in my own kitchen, we have to continue this way. All right, so let's do the second sandwich over here. All right, so for this, I'm going to cut the edges off. Again, and if you've got kids, these endy bits I love them, really tasty. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to do finger sandwiches, so we're actually going to cut this into 3 pieces. And the fingers in like that. So depending on how you want to put this, you can actually use. Just going to bring the plate over so that you can see what I'm doing here. So we're just going to put 3 like that. And you might then decide I need a little bit of garnish. I'm just going to bring out my fennel frond. But you'll notice that I keep putting things back in the fridge. It's really, really important for this. We're just going to just put a few fennel fronds, or dill, as you'll probably have dill if you're doing this, around. And I give you cocktail sandwiches. Now I can't imagine that anyone would not be happy eating that. The salmon sandwiches and the egg, and make sure you wipe around the edges. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe if you're really enjoying these videos, because there's lots more on the channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. If you want to see more videos from the Harper Tech Academy, make sure you subscribe on the video, and thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.